Hey, welcome. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to host N8N for free in your own local environment. You'll be able to get to it from the internet. Your applications will be able to get to it. You'll be able to develop things, prove concepts, sell it, demonstrate it, you name it. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Justin. I run a community called Automation Station and this YouTube channel. Anything I talk about in this video, any handouts, any templates will be available for free inside of the Automation Station school community. I'll leave a link in the description and in the comments. People have trouble finding stuff in here, so I get it. It's new. Come into the classroom, go to YouTube resources, search for the upload date or the video title, and let's see if we have an example here. Go ahead and click on the post, and if you see if there are any templates, like in this video, there are going to be templates that you are going to want to download because they're YAML files, yet another markup language. I think that's what it stands for, not important. But formatting is very important. It'd be really tedious to try to copy and paste it, pause the video, and all that stuff. So I'm going to provide those templates for free here in the Automation Station. Just come in here, you pop this open, you download them. Now, if you're on a mobile device, what you're going to see is just this thumbnail. You're going to have to swipe left. I think that's the direction. And if you swipe left, you'll see it. Not sure why you'd be downloading these on your mobile device because you can't do anything with them. But a lot of people do. So enough of that. All right, let's talk a little bit about where this came from. So credit to TF Show. I was browsing the N8N forums, like I do every once in a while when I'm bored, and I saw this great post where he outlines how he securely self-host N8N with Docker. All right, it's a mouthful. You don't need to know exactly what this is. I'm going to show you every single button you need to press to make this happen in your environment, at home, your laptop. Now, he posted this and it looks awesome, but it was kind of technical, and this is an advanced topic. So I don't typically recommend hosting N8N. I'm going to talk about that here in a second, but I see the use case for it. Now, he went ahead and mentioned this, and some people came and suggested some things, and King Samuel David also suggested an upgrade. And so I pieced these two things together, made a few changes, and trying to make a tutorial to make it easy for you to do. Okay. Here's how it works. High-level overview. There's a lot of technical components coming into this. Like, this is an advanced topic, and I don't want you to get confused doing this. Let me start by saying that this is not revenue-generating activity, okay? But people in my community have asked about self-hosting ad nauseum. I always recommend not self-hosting. And my stance on that is because if you are not a very technical person, if you don't understand cloud infrastructure, storage volumes, cloud, hosting, routing, domains, DNS. If you don't understand those concepts, if you're hosting production workflows in a self-hosted environment and none of that makes sense to you, you're going to be in a world of hurt whenever something goes wrong. Now, I do see the use case in self-hosting to save money and to learn and to have a lab environment, to prove concepts. Maybe you're new and you just want to learn. You're going to be using executions. Maybe you'll run out of executions and you still want to learn. Well, with this, you can run as many executions. You can have more than 5 workflows active. You can have unlimited workflows active. Unlimited is, quasi-true because there's resources on your computer that you might run out of. But you're not limited to the 5 workflows or the 2,500 executions. So if you're in learning mode, if you're just trying to prove concepts, if you're prospecting, if you're trying to show your clients some functionality, this is perfect for you. But please don't host production level workflows in here. I don't recommend it unless you feel super comfortable with the infrastructure here. I feel comfortable with the infrastructure here and I still don't do it. Okay. But good lab environment. So here's how it works. This is your house, your handy dandy little stick figure house. And on your laptop, like I'm using a MacBook here. Okay. If you have a Windows machine, which is probably very typical, the process is going to be very similar. There's going to be some changes in where you go in the command line and all that stuff, but I'll try to highlight those as I go on. It's going to be very similar, okay? ChatGPT is your friend. All right, now we are home. We have this little laptop. This is my MacBook here, and we are going to host N8N inside of this home. Now, imagine this home had no windows, all right? You can't peek inside of it. You can't see that N8N is running. Well, we need sort of like a tunnel to peek into the house, okay? And what we're going to use for that is Cloudflare. I'm going to install an application on my laptop that knows how to talk to Cloudflare. So even though there's no windows, I'm telling it, hey, use the internet to talk to Cloudflare this way. Cloudflare is going to recognize that and it's going to say, cool. Now, anytime I get traffic destined for your little laptop in your windowless home, I know where to send it and I'll do so. All right. high-level overview, probably a terrible analogy, but you're going to see how it works here in a second. Right over here on this side, we just have internet resources. By internet resources, I mean applications. Go high level, voice API, retail, Square, Stripe, whatever applications are out there. Maybe your web browser, maybe you're trying to get to this from your job, but this laptop is sitting at your house. Those are internet resources. You can reach this little N8N instance in the windowless building in your house from anywhere using Cloudflare. And Cloudflare tunnels enable that. Don't worry, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. So you don't need to be concerned with all the nitty-gritty details. Okay, I'm going to say this again really fast. This is great for lab environments, development, staging changes, proof of concepts, and most importantly, learning, which is what this channel is all about. Learning, okay? Learning fundamentals. This is not production ready, although this is pretty secure because it's sitting in the little windowless house. It's not hardened, okay? Nothing that I give you here is meant to be hardened. It's also not resilient and it's not portable. We're not connecting this to a SQL database. That would make it a little bit more advanced, which means if you pick this up and move it somewhere else, you run the risk of losing data if you don't understand how to work with volumes inside of Docker. None of that makes sense. Those are the reasons why I tell you don't self-host this, okay? But if you're going to self-host just to learn, it's fine, okay? So long as you don't have anything that's going to be of extreme value that you don't back up, you can download all your workflow templates inside of N8N. So if it all goes away at some point, which it shouldn't unless something goes catastrophically wrong, but if it does, no worries. You have a folder full of JSON templates that you can always import into your cloud N8N or another instance of N8N. So always recommend saving and backing up as much as possible. But again, if you're not comfortable with this stuff, doesn't mean don't do it. Just don't run it as your production network. Plus, if you're selling this to people, you're probably charging a pretty penny. You could probably afford a $50 a month subscription for N8N Cloud. And I'm not putting my affiliate link for N8N down in the description. I'm just keeping it real. All right, prerequisites. We have Docker Compose / Docker Desktop. I say / because Docker Desktop should automatically install Docker Compose, and we need a Cloudflare managed domain. Okay, now, if you don't already use Cloudflare, don't worry, I'm going to talk about it here in a second. But if you don't already have a domain that's managed by Cloudflare, then you might have to spend some money. You might have to spend, I'm going to try to buy one for somewhere under $10 a year for a domain. I'm going to buy a random domain, and hopefully it's going to be under $10 for the whole year. And I can use as many executions as I want. So I guess technically it's not free, but it's $7. Skip Starbucks today and buy yourself a domain. All right, so Cloudflare, first and foremost, if you don't know what Cloudflare is, I am not going to teach you. However, Cloudflare is responsible for a lot of what happens on the internet. DNS, domain name resolution, they provide some proxying, some security functions, and you name it. But for our use case, we're really concerned with domain management and tunneling, okay? We're going to go over that here in a second. I'm going to create a brand new Cloudflare account just so I could start from scratch so you could see it. Now, Docker. If you're unfamiliar with Docker, how do I explain this? Docker and containers are synonymous. Containers are essentially applications that people can build, and they build them in a way that you can deploy them, and I can deploy them, no matter what our configuration is on our computer, no matter what applications we have installed, what update we're on, assuming we meet the minimum requirements to run Docker and install Docker, we can just bring in that application, the environment comes in with that application, and I don't have to worry about all these custom little configurations and different settings. It should work just as deployed. Again, you don't need to be a Docker expert for this. I'm going to show you how to do it. All right. What you need to do, though, is you need to come over here. This part I'm not going to install from scratch, but here you just hover over. This is the homepage of Docker, docker.com. If you just hover over this blue button, you can download Docker for your operating system. And so I am on a MacBook Pro with an M4 chip. And so I downloaded the Apple Silicon version. Silicon. I don't know how to say it. If you have an Intel chip, you'll know by just going into your Apple About This Mac. I'm not going to pull mine up because it's going to dump my serial number and all that stuff. If you're doing this on a Windows device, you can download the correct one. And then if you're doing it on Linux, then you probably don't even need this tutorial, but you can download that one. So go ahead and download it and install it. Now, once you download it and install it, what I want you to do is actually open it up. Not that. Where are you? I want you to open it up, okay? You're probably going to open it up once the first time, and it's going to ask you a bunch of things. It's going to like pop up a bunch of warnings. It's going to want, especially if you're on a MacBook, it's going to want you to give permissions to certain directories and things. Allow, open up your system preferences, give it permissions, whatever it is. If this is your first time installing Docker, then I want you to close it and I want you to open it back up. When you first pop this open, it's probably going to ask you, hey, do you want to sign up? You don't have to sign up. You can click skip this step and then end up at this screen. But what's most important is down here at the bottom right-hand corner. I won't be able to zoom in, but you can see it says engine running. You want it to say engine running. So long as it says engine running, you're good to go. You can update it if there's updates available. Just make sure when you open it, you have engine running, okay? I'm on the personal version. This is completely free. This is what Docker looks like when it's all up and running. Now, I'm going to go ahead and minimize this for now. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to come over to Cloudflare. I'm at the homepage of Cloudflare. I'm going to click on products, register domain, and I'm going to search domains. I'm going to try to find a super cheap domain that I can purchase here live. So let's go to, I don't know, I just need a randomdomain.com. I'm not going to buy the .com because that will be expensive. But it looks like we have, I just need a randomdomain.org for $7.50 and .uk for $4.82. I'm not in the UK, so I don't want to run into any geographical issues. .work. Okay, that'll work. I'm going to buy this one. I just need a randomdomain.org. I probably want the .com. It's a pretty cool domain. Anyway, all right, so confirm. I'm going to come over here, and I might pause the video while I check out, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new one. Let's see, support@leadbrain.io, and I'm going to go and pause the video while I sign up for this. All right, so I went ahead and purchased a domain and had a little bit of a scary moment while I was doing that. My recorder stopped, so hopefully everything's okay. But I went ahead and purchased my domain. I'm sitting here inside of the Cloudflare dashboard, and now we're going to get a little busy here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I want to come over here to this Zero Trust menu over here. If you don't see this Zero Trust, let me show you what else you can do, because everybody's interface sometimes can be different. You can just press this search bar up here and search for Zero Trust, and you should see this Zero Trust menu item come up here. And here you can just choose your name. I'm going to go ahead and choose a name that's totally random. Let's just go ahead and say I just need a random domain. .cloudflareaccess.com, okay? This is totally random. You can change this later. It doesn't really matter, okay? Name it whatever you want. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. And then you see they try to sell you something, but guess what? You don't need it. You can use the free account. This is going to work with the free account. Super cool. So we're going to select this plan. I'm going to go ahead and proceed to payment. I'm going to stop here and re-record here in a second because my credit card info is going to show up, but it's $0 per month and it will be forever, okay? Stand by. All right, so sign up was complete. Now I am sitting here at the Zero Trust dashboard. Now what I need to do from here is I'm going to drop down networks and then I'm going to click on tunnels. All right, what I'm going to do is add a tunnel. I'm going to add a Cloudflare D or Cloudflared if you want to pronounce it that way. Tunnel, I'm going to select that. And then I'll just name this tunnel N8N. Okay, you can name it whatever you want, but I'm going to save that. And then it's going to ask me, how do I want to install this tunnel? I'm going to go ahead and select Docker up here in the menu, and I'm going to copy this. Now, what's important about this, I'm going to open up a Scratchpad here. What's important about this, one, is that you don't share this token like I'm sharing it with you, okay? I'm going to delete this token, but you don't want to share this, okay? Because that's going to give people the ability to create tunnels on your behalf, and you don't want to do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this tunnel. Right now I have it in a Scratchpad. That's where we want it. I don't necessarily need this whole line right now, but I do need this token. So I'm going to keep that there. And what I'm going to do is click Next. And then in here, it's asking me to add a subdomain, okay? And the subdomain can be whatever you want. I'm going to name it N8N. And then the drop down in my domains, I should see the domain that I just purchased. If you already had one, you should see a list of your existing domains. Or if you just purchased one, you should see your domain there. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. I'm going to leave this empty, an optional path. And then for service, I'm going to select HTTP. And then really technical here, not really, but you're going to type in N8N. All lowercase. I'm going to show you where you get that because it could be a little bit different for you. But if you just copy and paste everything I do, it's not going to be different. But typing N8N : 5678. Okay? Sounds wild, right? Don't worry. It'll make sense. All right. HTTP, not HTTPS, N8N : 5678. So we're going to go ahead and save this tunnel. Once I do that, you see that this tunnel is in an inactive state. Okay, and that's what we want right now. We don't necessarily need this to be active. Okay, now next thing we're going to do, I'm assuming you have Docker installed. If you don't have Docker installed already, go ahead and pause the video, go ahead and install Docker so that you see this right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull over a YAML file. Let me see if I can pop this open. Okay, here, if I make this bigger, this YAML file, okay, yet another markup language, not important for you to know exactly what it is, but do know that the formatting is very important. And this file is going to be available for download inside the Automation Station community, okay? Everything in here, just treat it as if it's case sensitive. Treat it as if you don't know what YAML is, even if you do, and copy and paste the same thing. Okay, so here I'm going to explain this a little bit. So we have two services, okay? We have the Docker image right here, N8N. So right here, you see how I name it? Where is it? Where's the name? Right here. Yeah, that's the name. So I named it N8N earlier when I said N8N:5678. Well, that's because that's the ports that we're going to expose. I'm not going to make this a networking lesson. Just know that if these ports were different, then you would probably change 5678, but no reason for you to change it. Keep it as it is. This is your lab environment, okay? I'm not going to go over every line, but a few important things. Right here, we have this webhook URL. This is actually, when I give it to you, it's going to say something like replaceme.com, okay? But our webhook URL is essentially our subdomain, all right? So if you see what we have here, we made our subdomain. If we come back to, let's come back to our handy dandy tunnels here. And what did we say this was? It's actually, if I come here, click configure, our subdomain should be right here. So N8N, I just need a random domain.work. If I pop this open, it's going to be, yeah, there you go. I didn't expect that to work. All right, cool. So I just wanted to copy that domain. Now let's come back in here and I'm going to replace this domain with the one that I just created inside of Cloudflare, the subdomain that I just created. Next thing we have here, we have some volume information. Now, if you're using a Windows machine, it should work. It should still work. This will work because this is all relative. Don't worry about it. It should work. If you're using Windows, I have a Windows virtual machine here, but unfortunately I can't virtualize this inside of my Windows virtual machine. But if you have a Windows machine and you try this, stick with it. Try to make it work. And if you can't, message me in the Automation Station community, and then maybe we can film a video together troubleshooting it. Now, Cloudflare. This is another service. So we have N8N. This is the whole N8N section, and then we have Cloudflare D or Cloudflared. This is the image that's going to get pulled in. And right here, this token is very important, okay? This token's important. So let's go back to our Scratchpad and copy that token. This is case sensitive, and I'm just going to paste it. All right, you're probably going to see something like replace me token inside of your template that you download, and you're going to paste your token. Just a token, not that whole thing, just the token, okay? And you see right here, I have the URL again, N8N:5678. If you change that, don't change it. Just easy, okay? Depends on N8N, so it's going to wait till this container gets deployed, and then it's going to pop this open, okay? This is that little piece of software I was telling you about right over here. This little piece of software that lives in your windowless house that knows how to talk to Cloudflare. That's that little piece right there, okay? It's just a bunch of letters on a screen. All right, so once we have that, I'm going to go ahead and save it, okay? I'm going to show you where that is saved here in a second because that is a little bit important. If you're using a Mac or maybe you're using a Windows machine, I don't know. Okay, so I'm here. I have a Finder window open on my Mac. I just created a new folder. I named it Docker-files. You can name it whatever you want. The important part is that little YAML file is this thing right behind me, right behind there with all that jibber jabber is inside of the Docker files, okay? And so you can actually delete this. That'll be created automatically because the Docker file references it right there. So file, inside of it, we have our config file or our YAML file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up here if I'm on a Mac, and I'm just going to right click and I'm going to new terminal at folder. So what this is going to do is open up a terminal tab. It's going to open up a terminal tab right here, and it's going to be in the folder. So if I type in pwd, which is print working directory, you'll see that I am right inside of the Docker files. If I list the files in here, ls-al, you'll see that I have docker compose.yaml. And if I just cat docker compose.yaml, again, you don't have to do all this. This is me just showing you that file is there, okay? I'm going to go ahead and clear my screen, and let me see. We are going to run a single command, okay? And that command, again, I'll put this inside of like a text file, but that command is docker tac or dash compose space up space dash D, okay? That's going to use this configuration file that's in this directory. It's going to pull the containers in, and it's going to run this in the background. So if I just go ahead and press enter, things should start happening. So we're going out to the internet, we're downloading stuff, we're downloading the 2 Docker containers, and then we're using the configuration file to run those Docker containers, okay? This should just take a second, and as you can see, it just completed. Both Docker containers were created and they were started. Now, if you come in here and you just type in docker tac compose and nothing happens or you get an error, it's probably because there was an error when you installed Docker. Okay, so one thing you can do is type in the word which Docker and you should see a location for Docker right here, or you can say which, you should really do both, docker dash compose, and you should see something come back. If nothing's coming back, it means maybe you opened this window before you installed Docker, or maybe you messed up when you installed Docker. So you can always open a new tab. I did like Command T, and then try doing which Docker again, and you should see something come back. Sometimes that works if it refreshes your environment, but if it doesn't, you might want to go back to trying to reinstall Docker and make sure that the engine is running like I mentioned in the beginning of the video. Now, we have everything up and running, right? But this is all like ones and zeros, and not really, but it's all ones and zeros and doesn't make any sense. Well, why do we install Docker Desktop? Well, we installed Docker Desktop because we wanted to be able to look at this stuff. So let me pull open Docker Desktop. If you come over here to the containers, you now see we have something here and it's green, it's running, which means it's good. If I click on this, you see we have 2 containers running, N8N and Cloudflare D, and you see we have some logs running here. If you come over here to volumes, we have a Docker volume, which means that's where all our data is stored. Fun fact, if I come in here and I delete this, and I'll show you later how easy it is to delete it and restart it and redeploy it, so long as this volume is still here, it'll keep all our data, okay? But I'm not going to go into that. All right, so we have this Docker Compose here. Let's see if our tunnels are up. Let's go into our Cloudflare, and let's see if we could see, boom, tunnels, healthy. So that was inactive before, remember? Once we did the Docker Compose up, and then we did tac D, and it all downloaded and it all deployed, it reached out to Cloudflare, and now those two have a connection. This part right here is now working. It's green, it's healthy. So technically, if I come into here and I click configure, public host name, and I click on my subdomain, it should work. Let's see. Boom. So this is like magic, okay? So this is literally coming in all the way from the internet because I reached out to N8N. I just need a random domain, yada, yada. And it went over here, went to Docker. Docker reached out, went into my windowless house, and it is now talking to my MacBook. So the internet's talking to my MacBook in a very nonchalant way. Now, this saying it's dangerous because we are not using HTTP, or maybe we have an invalid certificate. That's an advanced topic. If you want to make sure TLS is up and running, you can. But let me show you something else. Because this is running on my MacBook, I should be able to just put in localhost 5678, and I should be able to access the same thing. Localhost is just my local computer. And so if you're running into issues with the tunnel and you can't get it to work, but your containers went up, one way to bypass Cloudflare and its tunnels is instead of going to your subdomain that you created, you can just go to localhost 5678, and you should see this window come up. Now let's just go ahead and set up our account here. I'm just going to go ahead and put in a random email and password. Let's see, sure. I'm going to use that password that you guys all just saw. It's fine. It's just random. So here we go. I'm just going to click get started here, and I'm going to skip all that. And now we have a fully functioning version of N8N. We can create as many workflows as we want, do as many executions as our computer can handle. I'm going to go ahead and create a workflow. I'm going to show you something cool. If I trigger a workflow by a webhook, which is very common, you see now I have internet accessible webhooks, both for test and production, internet accessible webhooks that I can use right now. So very powerful. That's it for this whole thing. Now I'm going to show you some tricks inside of Docker. So in case you run into some issues, you can come in here. I'm going to show you how resilient this is. Now remember I mentioned the volumes here, the Docker volume. So if I come in here, I'm just going to click stop for this whole entire Docker situation. These containers, you notice everything is stopping right now. I'm even going to interrupt the stop. I'm just going to delete it while it's stopping, and now it's gone. Notice that the volume is still here, but it's not connected to anything. It's not in use. If I come back to my handy dandy terminal window and I just up arrow enter till I go to docker compose.up, you'll notice that it'll just redeploy. And this time it was quicker. Why? Because those images were already downloaded. Those containers were already downloaded. It didn't need to re-download them. So if I come in here and let's say I come back to N8N and try to refresh this, let me leave without saving. You see it's working. Okay, it's still here. It didn't ask me to sign up this time because it had access to my Docker volume, which there's a database in there, a really light database in there, had access to that. Now, watch what happens when I delete it all, okay? I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to delete the whole thing while it's running, which is very rude. I'm going to delete the images, okay? And then I'm going to delete the volume. Bad. All our data's gone. Next time I come to this, it should ask me to re-sign up for an account, okay? So this is pretty much like starting from scratch. So I'm going to come over here. Let me up arrow enter. And now you see we're pulling those files again because we deleted them. Give it a second. It should bring them all up. Remember, the configuration file, the YAML file, we didn't change anything, so it should all work. All right, so let this go. Looks like everything's created and started. If I come back over to my Chrome and I refresh this, you see now it's asking me to set up because I deleted that Docker volume. So without further ado, that's all. That's how we do this. Remember, I don't recommend you use this for a production environment, but this is a super cool way to host locally and to learn for free. So you don't have the pressure of a $50 recurring subscription or a $20 subscription, or I can only use 2,500 executions while I'm learning this stuff. This is very valuable for you. You can actually show people how this works. You can create a voice agent, book appointments, do all that stuff with this self-hosted version. Now your laptop does have to be on, or if you're doing this on a different computer at your house, that computer has to be on because everything's running on this computer. Not ideal, you see? That's why people host this in the cloud, because it's always up. But it'll get you there and you'll learn. Huge shout out to TF Show on the N8N forums and to King Samuel David. Huge shout out to you guys. I'm going to go ahead and post the tutorial in here just to show the few modifications I made to make it work. And if you found this valuable, please hit the subscribe button, comment down below, join the Automation Station community, the YAML files, the commands that we run. I'll go ahead and upload that in there. See you next time. Peace.